Singapore businesses will have more support to put in place practical approaches to manage climate risks, such as higher temperatures and extreme weather events. It's through a new council, jointly led by the National Climate Change Secretariat and the Singapore Business Federation, or SBF. Rachel Teng reports.
As weather patterns become more erratic, the aviation sector stands to gain from weather forecasting data tailored to its needs. With that, it can optimize plane landing, addressing safety concerns and saving on fuel costs. It's one example of climate-related business needs that the new Council for Competitive Climate Transition, or C3T, seeks to address. The council will be co-chaired by Singapore's Ambassador for Climate Action, Mr. Ravi Menon, and SBF CEO Kok Peng Soon. The council will work with firms to support their green transition efforts in line with the country's National Adaptation Plan, and even explore how businesses can find new revenue streams and opportunities by doing so. This could include access to green bonds and loans, or sourcing from more sustainable suppliers. It also aims to tackle data gaps by consolidating climate data and providing the tools to help companies use it. At the Council's launch, Sustainability and the Environment Minister Grace Fu says including such risks in business continuity plans, or BCPs, needs to start now, because some adaptation strategies take many years to implement.
Some of them may require BCP to be drawn up sooner than we expected, and we will basically call on companies to pay attention to this very important issue. We don't want to be the frogs in boiling water. We want to be able to jump out when we sense the water is getting hotter, so that we will not be boiled over.
Mr. Menon says the current energy crisis has further strengthened the business case for the green transition.
The current geopolitical situation, if anything, it has shown the vulnerabilities involved in excessive dependence on the oil and gas energy system globally. There are high concentration risks, and we need to find ways to overcome that. And renewables and energy efficiency improvements are obvious measures for the long term. Of course, in the short term, they may not be applicable, and we have to do all that's necessary to keep businesses thriving.
He says the council will include representatives from government agencies and key sectors in Singapore's economy.
And for more on this, we speak with Frank PHUAN, who is a co-chair of Sustainability Alliance Singapore, and Kok Peng Soon, who is CEO of Singapore Business Federation. Gentlemen, welcome to the show. Now, Frank, let's start with you first. C3T positions climate transition planning as an issue of competitiveness and not compliance as it once used to be. Why is climate action now such a core business strategy for Singapore companies?
I think it is an issue about our balance sheet now, right? Countries who have embraced renewable energy, for example, they are now suffering less or having less impact in this whole Iran conflict. Right? We also see companies who have treated climate action as a compliance checklist, they are now playing catching up. So companies who have now embedded climate action into a strategy, how you source energy, how you manage your supply chains and capital, I think we are also seeing these companies are building resilience against the shocks of the war that we see today.
Yeah, in times of crisis, these preparations reveal themselves in a way. So Peng Soon, let's go over to you now. From the companies that you've been speaking to, are most of them sold on this idea of turning it into a core business strategy, or do you still see some stragglers or people who are a bit skeptical about it?
Well, I'll make 2 points. One, I think the way you phrase the question seems to suggest cost and carbon are diametric outcomes. The reality is that efforts to reduce the carbon actually improve your operating profits because it lower operating costs. And I'll give you a very real example, right? Now, companies that electrified their fleets, before the Middle East crisis are now seeing the direct benefit because they don't have to pay the higher diesel prices. So cost efficiency is the same as carbon efficiency. The second quick point that I want to make, for companies that are still struggling is that just feel the environment recently. We're getting more extreme weather events. It is more frequent, it's more intense. So take a construction company. If you're not prepared, where heat resilience, if you're not prepared, you're going to get higher temperatures, you affect worker safety, productivity, project milestones. So which is why planning for climate risk is about business continuity planning. If you need to take care of manpower shortages, you need to take care of supply chain disruption, you better take care of climate risk. Otherwise, you will not be resilient, you will not be competitive.
Yeah, well, Frank, let's get your input now about what's happening on the ground also. How is climate change really concretely affecting operations on the ground when it comes to profits or even the long-term plans of companies?
I think when you see a temperature rise, the electricity bills you pay on monthly to have more cooling, that is very apparent to everyone, right? Just like what Peng Soon said about logistic companies spending more if you are using a diesel truck compared to now if you change to EV, you are having less cost to run the operation. That is also very apparent. I think this goes beyond, I think, the day-to-day. You are talking about insurances, your insurance premium increasing, your landlord perhaps in future charging coastal rise levies on your property. I think on a longer term, if you are not prepared, I think you will be caught, catching up.
Yeah, well, Peng Soon, we know that many companies want to do the right thing. They don't want to be left behind in that sense. But they can also find that climate action can be expensive. It can also be a bit confusing or time-consuming for companies, right? So how can platforms like C3T make things easier for them?
So, government has all these wonderful big plans, the national adaptation plans, but these are just plans. The reality is that the real action actually happens on the ground, sector by sector, company by company. And that's where most companies struggle. Companies are asking us, okay, so what do I do? What do I do to my factory? What do I do to my supply chain? What do I do to my workers? And importantly, what do I start first? So a C3T like this really helps to bridge this gap by doing three things. Number one, take all these national plans and translate it into sector-level guidance. Now, adaptation is very different if you're a logistic company, if you're a construction company, if you're a manufacturing company. The risks and options are different. So C3T does that by breaking down to more sector plans. Number two is about them bringing in the ecosystem player, bringing the insurers, bringing the banks, bringing the solution provider, so that companies got access to tools, to money, and to framework, and not just the guidance. And the third really is to coordinate, to bring all this information across the supply chain. Because you may be prepared, but your suppliers are not. And if your suppliers are not, you're going to be affected as well. So how can we ensure expectations are consistent and we lift the capability up throughout the industry?
Yeah, and to lift that capability throughout all the sectors, how does C3T work on the ground? Are there concrete programs, Frank, that you can give us examples of?
I believe C3T really is a bridge between policy to execution on the ground, right? So like what Peng Soon have shared, I think there will be programs that will be churned out between private and public collaboration, identifying temperature rise issues. What happens if you have 2 degrees increase? How would you manage? And I think this is also aligned with our national adaptation plan as well. Minister talked about BCP, right? So having those plans early also help in our building our own resilience against climate change.
Well, Frank,
add on very quickly. I think companies struggle with two things. One, too many standards. Two, not enough trusted data. So what C3T does really is to come in, right? Try to standardize the way companies are asking for such climate risk information so that you just do it once and you don't have to do it many times.
To make things more efficient
More
for
efficient,
the future.
that's right.
Well, Frank, Peng Soon, thank you so much for coming in today and sharing your insights with us. I've been chatting with Frank PHUAN, who is the co-chair of Sustainability Alliance Singapore, and also Kok Peng Soon, CEO of the Singapore Business Federation.